Hello people. Yes, this is the part 2 of my playing a different game every day in the month of January, which is months ago now, but it's taken me that long to get through to this. I did the first part, which I'll link in the description somewhere. But yeah, it's when I say a new game every day in January, it's not like going out spending money. It's a game that's new to me, one that I've never played before. So I streamed them all on Twitch and thought I would pretty much summarise my experiences with them here. By the looks of it, I thought putting this on might have an interesting kind of demo reel to it, because it's an arcadey kind of game. But no, it played the intro, then it stopped, and it now just has a shit background. So yeah, ignore the background, it's crap. So yeah, what you'll see now is the next 10 games that I played in the month of January. Sorry, just swigging a beer, because got a swig of beer in every video. So yeah, this will be day 11 to 20 in the month of January. This is what I played. Hopefully you enjoy it. For day 11, I really wanted to go out of my comfort zone. I'm not a fan of board games, card games, or roguelike games, so of course I chose to play a roguelike card game. This is one that took me a long time to work out what I was even doing. Basically, you work your way up through a grid, trying to find the most effective path to the bosses and work your way up to the top to slay the spire. The game is built so you would have to be super lucky to beat the game on your first go. Saying that, it's probably completely impossible. You have to keep playing to unlock new cards to be used in subsequent attempts. To play, you have a deck of cards which you place down as your attacks or defense. I couldn't get my head around the defense cards to start with, as you can completely stack these together to negate enemies' attacks. You can see how hard the enemy is going to hit you, so you can work on building up your defense before it's too late. I thought it was as simple as play one defense and hope it blocks a bit of the damage, and this kept getting me killed. I struggle with these kinds of games as I cannot keep the rules in my head without serious repetition, but it did sink in finally. I also kept messing up the simple math required to work out the maximum damage and blocking, but that's just down to me being a bit simple at the end of the day. You do not get your health back after each fight, but you can get cards and items to help you. These are bought in the shops on the map. There are also rest stops along the way to help you recover some health. You can level up your cards to make them more powerful, but these reset every time you die and do not carry over to the next attempt. Strangely, it turned out that I really enjoyed this game, and a couple of people watching the stream also got pretty into it and downloaded it to play. It was a breath of fresh air to play something so completely different that I usually would have steered clear of. I'd recommend this to anyone in my position who feels like they need a change from the norm. It looks boring, but honestly, it's good fun. Next, I moved on to Wonder Boy: The Dragon's Trap on PS4. I was in the mood for something retro, and I had fond memories of Wonder Boy in Monster World on the Mega Drive. This is a HD remaster of a Master System game, I believe. With the press of a button, you can switch between the new and old version of the game. There may be some other changes to it, like physics, but I can't confirm that. So I imagine it's just a lovely new coat of paint put over the top. I could be wrong though, I haven't looked into this at all. To be honest, I really enjoyed this one, and I look forward to going back to finishing it off. It's an open world adventure platformer in which you search for items to unlock the next path, while still having the ability to attempt to go anywhere you want. It's not quite Metroidvania, but it's pretty close. This is definitely one for the retro fans though, as it's shown its age a bit. This might be because the only quality of life improvements I could see, as I said, was the graphics. But overall, the game didn't seem too difficult. I did get lost a few times, and I can imagine if you spend a decent amount of time in between play sessions, it might be tough to work out where you were if you went back to it. But overall, it shouldn't be much trouble for most players. The game does use limited health, but in the options you have quite lenient difficulty settings. On the lowest difficulty setting, you won't really find yourself with any health issues. The game does mix up the gameplay though by unlocking new abilities in the form of different dragons. You can transform into these dragons after defeating corresponding bosses. During the boss fight, they will usually give hints at what kind of power you will receive. These include allowing you to walk on walls or spit fire. I haven't yet seen all the transformations, and I'm looking forward to seeing what gets thrown my way. Overall, this is a solid little adventure platformer, and it will definitely scratch that retro itch. There's been way worse HD remasters in recent years. Day 13 is going to be a bit of a quick one actually. It was Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness on the Nintendo GameCube. Don't know where to start with this one though. It's the sequel to Pokemon Colosseum released a few years earlier, but it's not a full-fledged Pokemon game. It's more of a side story RPG with Pokemon thrown into the mix. You don't really go about capturing Pokemon in the usual sense. You have to rid them of some kind of darkness and steal them off people. It's all very strange. I did play Colosseum, so I kind of knew what I was getting into, but that's not to say it's a bad thing. As a standalone RPG, it seems pretty fun, with the odd Pokemon battle thrown in here and there. Sadly, with this being a really long RPG, I didn't get too far into it in the amount of time I was playing it. This means I can't really make a clear judgment on it, but I did enjoy what I played. I will go back and finish this one off, but I might have to go finish Colosseum first though. My final thoughts on this one, it's just Pokemon Stadium with a bit of a fleshed out story tacked on. Imagine it's worth a play though if you're into Pokemon. I was hesitant going into Blasphemous. All I had heard is that it was a 2D Souls-like game, and me and Souls-like games don't get along. The last 2D Souls-like I had attempted was Salt and Sanctuary, which to be honest was a great game, but I got frustrated with it and never went back to it. Here's where I got my pleasant surprise. Although Blasphemous is a 2D Souls-like game, it feels way more forgiving than any of the other ones I've tried before. It always felt like I was making progress. Yes, there were a few enemies that took me down multiple times, but I didn't feel the need to give up. I always felt like I'd go back and beat them. To be honest, I was worried my stream was going to get shut down for this one. I wasn't expected to so many pixelated boobies. So just a warning, this one is very violent and contains nudity, so it's not one for the kiddies. Well, that should be obvious from the title, really, shouldn't it? I would consider this more of an on the harder side Metroidvania than a full-on Souls-like. Lastly, I'm going to have to mention the graphics. The pixel art in this game is absolutely gorgeous, and that's weird when talking about such a bleak game. You can tell it's had a lot of love and attention poured into it. Definitely one I'm going to go back to and finish this year, and I recommend it to the 3 people left who haven't played it already. On day 15, I decided to give Steambot Chronicles a go, as it's been highly recommended on channels of larger YouTubers many times, some even going on record saying it's their favourite game of all time. So what kind of game is it? Simply, it's a mech combat RPG. That doesn't sound so strange, but when you realise it's full of weird minigames and almost has a dating/life sim section to it, it definitely makes it stand out from the rest. It's got a very budget, but at the same time polished feeling to it. So far from what I've seen, it's going to have a very serious overarching story, but hidden behind some bizarre humour. After the intro to the game, it opens up into more of an open world type of affair, where you're free to start quests and just live your life. The main mode of transport is the mech, known as a Tropmobile, and impressively, you can customise pretty much everything about it. It kind of feels a bit like Pimp My Tropmobile. My only main gripe with the game so far though is the controls. The Tropmobile controls kind of like the Katamari Damacy games, so both sticks to go forward, both sticks to go back, but left and right requires a combination of up and down. It doesn't take long to get used to, but would be a better overall experience if it had more modern controls. Come on someone, remaster this one. It needs it. Again, this is a larger RPG, so in the few hours I was playing, I haven't even scratched the surface of what the game had to offer. And again, it's another one I'm really looking forward to going back to play. I'd recommend this to anyone who's after something seriously different, as long as you can get past the clunky controls. The world feels living and breathing, but on a very budget level. The closest I can compare it to is Deadly Premonition, but don't take that the wrong way. I love Deadly Premonition, but a lot of people sadly hate it. I think it came as a bit of a shock to people that I hadn't ever played Castlevania Symphony of the Night before, especially as I love a good Metroidvania. The reason for this is simple. I always wanted to play it on original hardware, but I've just never been in the financial position to pick up a copy. The PAL release is a rather insane price, to be honest with you. It goes for 500 quid plus now. Strangely though, I do have it on the PSP, the Xbox 360, and where I'm playing it here, on the PS4. So nothing's really been stopping me other than my pure stubbornness. To be honest, now I'm kicking myself I didn't play it sooner. I knew it was going to be great, but I enjoyed it way more than I was expecting. My thought process was that the games in this style that have come since must have improved on the formula, so going back it might not hold up. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. This feels like the gold standard of 2D games. I would like to know though if this port is based off the original PS1 version or if it's the updated Xbox Live version, but I'll only ever find that out if I cough up some serious pennies. So how does the game play? Basically it's a giant maze of platforms and doors you must traverse to get through Dracula's castle, but there's a ton of different items and weapons you can use to aid you in this daunting task. Not only this, but there's a decent RPG levelling system, which makes backtracking feel not worthless, as it always feels like you're going towards something. Sadly, since it's an old game and it's been on almost every retro YouTuber's videos over the years, I know how the game ends, but this isn't dampening my enjoyment, and the inclusion of trophies to an old game is just the icing on the cake for me. Gotta get them trophies. Thought I was trying to get out of this completionist mindset. Damn it. Give this one a go if you haven't already. I doubt that's many of you though. It's currently available pretty cheap on digital platforms. In the UK, a digital copy of the Castlevania Requiem collection will only set you back about £15, but it's recently been in the sale for as low as £3.19 on the PS4. So you have no reason not to play this one, unless you're stubborn like me. I'm an idiot. Slime Sand is one I can't even remember where I got it from. I think it might have been from a limited run blind box, but it's been sat on my shelf for a long time with me knowing nothing about it, so of course it had to go in the console. Looking at the back of the case, I surmised it must be some kind of Super Meat Boy style game, and to be honest, I wasn't that far off. Like Meat Boy, it's a single screen, one-hit death platformer, but it has more of an 8-bit aesthetic, which I really enjoyed. Sadly, the bitrate of the stream didn't though. I had a few comments about how it was getting a tad pixelated on the stream, but I couldn't do much about that with my Stone Age internet. It takes passing 4 single screen challenges to fully complete a level. To get full ratings on a level, there are collectibles you need to grab, and a time limit you need to beat. All the levels need to be completed quickly though, no matter what, as there's always something causing a sense of urgency, such as rising slime or something chasing you. This game for me was a win, as I love games with a quick snappy restart if you die. The challenge, while tough though, didn't seem impossible. These games can live or die on the controls though, and I can happily report Slime Sand has really tight controls that works perfectly for this type of game. I'm about to reference a very obscure game as a comparison. It kind of reminded me of Awesome P, but not quite as stiff. I can probably only think of one other person who will watch this that's actually heard of that game, let alone played it. Hello Rob. The physical copy of this game is also getting a bit on the pricey side now. I don't think it had a full retail release and was only put out in small quantities by limited run games, but it can be found very cheap on the eShop. It's one I also imagine must pop up in the sales from time to time. If it shows up for under a £5, jump on it. I was pleasantly surprised. Day 18 was a game called Tin and Kuna on the Nintendo Switch. Strangely, this is a game that I was being a bit of a wimp with, which sounds odd when you see what it looks like, but I'll explain. I have this on both PS4 and Switch. I decided to play it on the Switch, as I remember seeing the trophies once upon a time, and I don't think they were a fun ride on the PS4 version. I do feel when I go back to this game to try and complete it this year that I'll go for the PS4 version though. I know it's making it worse for myself because I'll have to go for the trophies, but if I'm going to be playing this, I need something out of it. Anyway, enough of me explaining my bitching out. What is this game? Simply, it's a game of rolling balls around Captain Toad Treasure Tracker style diorama levels. If it was simply just a standard platformer set in these environments, it would have been a much more enjoyable experience. Or if you could actually grab the items you were pushing, that would have helped too. The physics are a bit on the janky side, and that's to put it kindly. There's so many times I would tap a ball and it would shoot off at super speed. At the heart, it's just a puzzle game where you solve switch-based obstacles to work out a route to take. Later in the game, you do get other power-ups though, like being able to tether yourself to the ball, but this doesn't work how you'd expect. Don't think this will allow you to maneuver the ball easily by just dragging it around behind you. It's really used just for a small, snappy drag to change the direction of the ball, or to quickly help drag it up ledges or something. I can see this completion being a long, tedious slog, and the later levels that I played sucked what little fun I was having out of it. I would only suggest this one if you're a bit of a masochist and looking for a headache. It's by no means the worst game I've ever played, and the art style is nice and cute, but you really need to be in some kind of serious gaming drought before contemplating starting this one. Sorry, Tin and Kuna. You weren't still the first proper dud though, don't worry. Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana is one I've been wanting to play for years, but being the Vita fan I am, I always wanted to play that version, but its price and just scarcity outside of eBay always got in the way. Luckily enough, a fellow YouTuber was selling off a lot of his collection, and he helped me out with it. Saying all that, when I finally got around to start playing it, I used a PS TV to allow me to stream it. Typical, isn't it? Honestly, for a game on an aging handheld system, the game looks fantastic and keeps a very respectable frame rate. But I don't need to talk about the boring bits. Was the game any good? This is only the second Ys game I've ever had the pleasure of playing, the first being Ys 7 Memories of Celceta, also on the Vita. I do have Origins on the Switch, but I've not yet given it a go. I'd rather have the Vita version, that's why. The game opens up on a ship which capsizes, and you wash ashore on an island inhabited by monsters. From here it's your pretty standard action RPG gameplay. You also hunt for survivors and resources to build your camp and eventually try to escape the island. All the characters are varied and likeable, while some you meet will purposefully rub you the wrong way. The combat is fluid and the levelling never feels like a grind. The only thing it took me a while to get used to was that X was attack and circle was jump. X and circle are usually flipped in Japan on the PlayStation, so this might be a product of that. I don't know. I've since played about 50 hours of this and I'm still nowhere near the end. So if its high prices ever putting you off, you definitely get bang for your buck. It is much cheaper on the PS4 or Switch, and I think the translation was overhauled for them versions. Luckily, using the PS TV allows me to jump between the TV and the handheld, kind of like the Switch with extra steps, so I can continue this one while I'm lounging about or even on the go. This is another one I would highly recommend out of all the games I played this month. If action RPGs are your thing, don't sleep on this one. Plus it's got dinosaurs in it. For day 20, I knew while the PS TV was still hooked up, I needed to jump into another Vita game. Simply it takes too many damn cables to get this thing to stream. I didn't want to set it up again after unplugging it. Being a massive horror game fan, I knew it was the perfect time for me to try out one of the ones that always comes highly recommended by big YouTubers when it comes to the genre. I've always enjoyed watching Nitro Rad's series of horror game reviews, and I've always felt we've had a similar taste in games that would freak us out. So when I heard that this was something that genuinely unsettled him, I was more than keen. I don't want this to come out negatively though, but playing this just isn't scary. I don't know if it's because I wasn't playing it with headphones on a tiny screen, but it just felt like I was being chased by children's drawings. Strangely though, as a game I did enjoy it. It's just not a piss your pants horror game. It's basically a slow paced game in which you walk around hunting for items and people. The monsters can only be seen when you shine a torch on them, but the spread of light from it illuminates so much in front of you that you only really need to worry about the ones behind you. I can imagine though if you were playing this in the dark with headphones on, it could be somewhat unsettling. The audio design is top notch. There's always an ominous presence and you feel like you're being somewhat followed. Then even if you die, it doesn't feel like there's much of a consequence, as it doesn't take long to get back to where you were from the save points. That's if you save at every point like I do, because I'm a pussy. I would put this into the category of a good horror game if you wanted to play to get into the genre. It's also been way more successful than you think it would be. So far there's a total of 3 games in the franchise. Even though it sounds like I'm putting the games down, I want to give all 3 of them a shot. I can imagine they're all pretty similar though. I've yet to go back to this one, but as soon as I've finally seen the end of Ys 8, I will do. Pick this up if you want an entry-level horror without too many spooks. It's still an enjoyable time, although a little depressing at the beginning. It might get worse, I don't know. I haven't got that far. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and luckily, I think we found something that has a demo reel in it. So the outro has some footage of something that wasn't in the video in the background, but it's got a background. Yeah, out of those ones that I played, I've got to think that the highlights were Ys 8. I really enjoyed Blasphemous and Castlevania. They were fantastic. I felt bad with how long it's been since how long I've put off playing Castlevania. To be honest, it was a really solid month. Slay the Spire was a surprisingly good game. Like, I said, I'm not usually into those types of things, the card games or board games or anything like that. But yeah, fantastic. Recommended stuff, and it's super cheap. It's also available, I think it's on Game Pass at the moment, and it was free on PS Plus. So you've probably got it somewhere in your back catalogue. And the other one was Steambot Chronicles, which was incredibly strange. But as RPGs go, it was a very unique game, and I'm looking forward to going back to it. It was bizarre. I was going to mention in the review, well, it's not really a review, is it? It's a tiny little bit of my stomach gargling like anything. It's a tiny little snippet of what I thought of it, but I was entertained by how much time I could spend just kneeling and kissing people's hands. That was a bit bizarre. I've never seen that in a game as a... I wouldn't say it was a feature, it was just an option that was available way too much. So, yeah, let me know. Out of these, is there any of them that you'd want to play? Have I made you want to play any of them? Have you played any? Yeah, that's it. I'm no good at these intros, outros. Anything I'm on a camera... Actually, I'm no good at any of it, so... But yeah, let me know. There will be a part 3 to this. It's going to be slightly longer to do, because there's an extra day. It'll be 31 days, isn't there, in January? So there'll be 11 I have to put in the next section. But it'll be all good. I've actually enjoyed putting this series together, and I enjoyed doing the challenge. I was more impressed at how hard it was for me to find games that I hadn't played before, when I own quite a lot of games. And I don't mean that as a brag, that's just like literally going through everything. I was impressed. I couldn't find that many games to play. Well, I could have played a lot of shit. I might do a month of just playing pure crap and come back and tell you what that was like. But yeah, I may come back with grey hair after that one. I'm going to shut up. I'm just waffling about crap, aren't I? Anyway, thanks for watching, people. Part 3 is in the works. This one probably wasn't as well put together as the first one. Don't know why. I'm just not good at it. Anyway, have fun, people. Bye.